So I'm going to invite our CEO, Tai Lee, and CEO of AMD, Dr. Lisa Su, to join me on stage. Please, take a seat. Yes, thank you very much.
You want to
Oh, it's fantastic to have you both with us. Thank you so much. Now, as I was doing my research, I couldn't help but notice that there's a bit of rivalry in the room. Tai, you're a graduate of Harvard. Lisa, you're a graduate of MIT. The two schools don't always play nicely with each other. I read stories of pranks played on the football field and in the science rooms, etc. I'm going to guess you were too goody two-shoes to get involved in any such antics. Were you involved in any rivalries, Lisa?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So Lisa, you're an engineer by
Yes.
academia. Did you always know that you wanted to head in that direction, or was that something you discovered as you went through your school?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's really such a pleasure and honor to be with Tai and at this summit here. Yes, I was an engineer by training. I think as a kid, what I would say is I learned early that it was fun to take things apart and fix things. And so the things I considered interesting were like my brother's remote-controlled cars as they were going around our house. And when they stopped working, it was, okay, let's see if we can fix it. But yes, engineering was a little bit in my DNA.
Dare I ask, did you break them on purpose?
I think not. But it goes to show you that you learn a lot when you're a little kid.
What about you, Tai? Was your sort of business career preordained, or is it something you fell into?
Yeah, firstly, a confession. My first choice college and MBA program were MIT. In fact, I think every Asian parents want their children to study science and become a doctor or engineer. And at the time, and probably still is today, every Asian parents really wanted their sons to go to MIT. When I got into MIT in 1976, my father told me I could not go because I would never be able to find a husband. Now, this is 49 years ago, so it was a long time ago. And even then, MIT had only 10% women, so it was a very unusual for women to go and become an engineer. Now, I'm much older than Lisa, so maybe things changed a little bit. And then MBA program, my first choice was MIT because until the year that I went, they had 1 year accelerated MBA program, which I wanted to go. But then they got rid of it, so that meant I had to work an additional year to save up money for my first year tuition. So.
Do you both retain any ties with the colleges that you attended?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I view when you think about the opportunity to stay connected to universities and all that, that is something that I think is important. So for MIT, especially when you're thinking about today and technology and AI, it is about sort of being around some of the smartest people, and there are lots of great scientists there. So we do have a number of programs between AMD and MIT professors, and personally, it's always going to be where I've learned how to be a good engineer.
Tai, you've also got some connections, right?
Yeah, I serve on the board of trustees of Amherst College, which is the liberal arts college that I was allowed to attend. And also at Harvard, I'm on a board of Dean's Advisory Board, which keeps me connected. I mean, there's just so much going on, and I usually go to these sessions to learn more.
Yeah. So Lisa, I'm going to pick up on the thing you talked about playing with your brother's cars, but let's classify that as gaming, but let's move from remote control cars into computers. We know that a lot of the computing innovations of the last 20, maybe even 30 years have actually come out of the gaming world, and AMD is particularly strong in providing processors and chipsets for gaming PCs. Are you seeing, well, have you seen much sort of crossover from the gaming world into the commercial world?
Yeah, I would say, so if I just give you the elevator speech on AMD, I joined in 2012, and I became CEO in 2014. And when you think about AMD, what I want you to think about is, we build the most bleeding edge compute, so highest performing computers out there, whether you're talking about for big data centers, the most powerful supercomputers in the world, to the cloud environments, to end user, client computing, PCs, gaming. And what the common thread through all of this is that, you want the best, computing capability, and that is highest performing, lowest power, good cost, those kinds of things. So from that standpoint, certainly we do see a lot of commonality between what you use in consumer applications. Like if you think about, if any of you have kids and you happen to have a PlayStation or Xbox, you have AMD technology in your household. We're very proud to be the partners of those two leading game consoles. That same technology pulls through to the PCs. I know we're going to talk about AI PCs. That same technology actually pulls through to what you put in your on-prem data centers and what you put in some of the largest cloud environments. And it's all sort of that basic engineering capability around microprocessors and AI processors.
So Ty, I almost sort of feel afraid to ask you the question, but was there much gaming in your house when you were growing up?
I was all study, no play. In fact, I was telling Lisa, in Korea where I grew up, after I came back from school, which was 6 days a week, I had to go to night school, which was a smaller group of people that would intensely compete with each other. And after that, my parents placed in-house live-in tutor. And actually, this situation was not all that unusual. So I grew up in a period when Korea was intensely focused on study.
It sounds like you studied 24/7, frankly.
I did sleep.
Okay, all right. 18/7, maybe, wow.
But not all that unusual, I think. Growing up in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan even, Korea, and maybe China, the Eastern Asian culture it is very focused on study.
That's absolutely true.
So Ty, I gave a very potted history of SHI when I was doing the intro. You've lived and breathed it. I just talk about it for 2 seconds. But take us back to 89, the early 90s, and then kind of bridge the gap. How different is it being the leader of a technology business 30 years on?
Firstly, I do want to say, Lisa is widely credited, is known to have saved AMD, because when she took over AMD, it was pretty much a bankrupt company, and now a leading company. So I do want to acknowledge that. Similarly, in 1989, when we took over SHI, it was relatively a bankrupt company with no value whatsoever, just one customer who had already issued us a letter firing us. We did not know that. So the first 10 years was really focused on surviving, right, which I think is similar with most startup companies. So it's all a blur to me now, thankfully. Not wish to relive that
right
ever again.
Are there parallels in that story for you, Lisa, as well?
Well, the way to think about it for me, I think, Ty's done a phenomenal job, really, if you think about the scale of what SHI is today and, the customer breadth and all of that. From an AMD standpoint, I think we're a company that has a lot of history, some good, some not so good. But the key for me has always been, I like to build things. At the end of the day, if you ask me, what do we do in life? We build great products. I like to build products, and we want to make sure that we're going into applications and solving customer problems. And so the most important thing for us at AMD when I started as CEO was to decide, what do we want to be when we grow up? What do we want to be known for? And that decision was around, before it was sexy to care about high performance computing, we decided this is what we're best at, because computing is going to power everything that's important over the next number of decades. And I think that is very much what it's about. And yes, these are all long-term things. Tech is not anything that can be done in a short term. I like to say the decisions that we make today, you'll only see whether they're the right or wrong decisions 3 to 5 years from now, because that's how long it takes for the technology cycle to fully play out. But yeah, it's a pretty exciting place to be.
So Ty bought SHI, came in as a leader. Lisa, I believe you held at least 1 or 2 positions within AMD before you took the role of CEO. Did that give you a slightly different perspective as you stepped into the leader role?
Yeah, I ran the global business units for a couple of years, and then I became CEO. I think the key point is, as I said, probably the most important point is in all companies, whether you're a big company or a small company, it's deciding where to spend your time. And on the first day that I became CEO, I told our employees, and at that time we had 8,000 employees. Today we're probably about 28,000. It was, we have 3 goals in life. Our number 1 goal is to build great products. That's what we're here for. We're a tech company. We have to build great products. Our number 2 goal, though, is to have very, very deep customer partnerships, because, in the end, we learn as the technology is being practiced and utilized, and that's how we learn how to do what's right for the next thing. And then the third thing was, frankly, simplify everything that we do, because in the end, what we want to have is the ability to be very agile in what is a market that has a lot of twists and turns. Like, maybe our world today has a few twists and turns. In the last few hours, it's twisted and turned again. So.
Turned in a good direction, which is a positive thing.
Yes.
For now, thank you, yes. Okay, so look, we did the polls with the audience earlier, and I promised that we'd come back to them, and I have them by the magic of iPad in front of me right now, so apologies, I'm going to have to read them, but hopefully it'll make sense. So the first question we asked was about the state of adoption for AI infrastructure in the cloud. I'm going to give you the outliers first, and then I'll give you the majority vote, which probably is not going to surprise you, but we'll see how we go. So 11% in the room had no plans to adopt AI infrastructure in the cloud. 15% were fully or are fully integrated across cloud and scaling workloads. But the vast majority, 65%, said they have begun the process of debate. By the magic of our AV team, we now have it on screen. I'm going to guess that's not a surprise, Lisa, and that's pretty much exactly as you would expect for where we are.
Yeah, I think that is, and I think that's great, actually. I think that this is a great audience to have the conversation, because I think what we're finding with AI, first of all, I think we all believe like AI is the most important technology trend that has come on to the scene over the last, I like to say the last 50 years, but certainly in my career. And what we find is everyone is learning at the same time, right? Nobody has really gotten everything that they want done. It is all a process of experimentation and learning and doing proof of concepts and deciding where you see the biggest return on investment. But I think that's a great number. And I like to say that we're still in the very early innings of AI. So let's call it, maybe we're 25% of the way there in terms of what we can really expect. And there's just tremendous opportunity in terms of what AI can bring to leading enterprises.
So we asked 2 questions, if you remember. So the cloud one, predominantly the answer we expected. So that's no surprises. The on-prem one is a lot more interesting, and I'd be interested to get your views collectively on this. So the least popular was a fully integrated architecture. Again, I don't think we're surprised by that one. A quarter of the votes each were early stages of researching and evaluating vendors, and also then begun deploying. So at least 25% in the room are actually starting to deploy. But 42% at the moment, no plans to move their AI from the cloud to on-prem. I'd love to hear, Lisa, your view on if you were a salesperson for AMD instead of the CEO for AMD, and you were trying to sell somebody on the benefits of moving AI to an on-prem infrastructure, what would you be saying?
But by the way, don't you think the CEO is actually the
well, I say that, but I don't feel comfortable saying it. So.
Look, I think what we're seeing is the following, right? People start in the cloud because it's kind of fast and it's quick. You can do these proof of concepts. But the desire to do more on-prem, I think, is definitely going to happen over the next few years. And here are the reasons why. Number one, if you think about what is the most valuable thing that we all have in our enterprises, it's our data. Our company data, our personal data, and people want control of that data. And that's probably the number one reason people think about on-prem deployment for AI is you have a lot more ability to decide which models are you going to use, what are you going to do with that data, who gets to see that data, where does it go. And then the other reasons are, of course, around cost and cost point. And probably the piece that hasn't fully come to the scene yet, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about AI PCs, is AI is going to be both in the cloud and sort of these large models, but you're going to see a lot of deployment that is more local in local environments. And with the latest generation AI PCs, you can actually run very large models locally, so that you don't have to go back to the cloud. You don't have to pay the cost. You don't have to worry about your data going anywhere. And it's very much something that you can control in your own IT environment. So hopefully, by the time we get to next year, you're going to see a different distribution of those numbers.
So Ty, bringing you into the conversation, we just had a fairly big event yesterday, opening our AI and cyber labs. Fantastic response. Great to have Governor Murphy joining us for that occasion. It feels to me like the labs are similar to what Lisa is saying. It's showing people the art of the possible and then moving with them at their pace. Is that why you put such a large investment into that facility?
Yeah, we were very excited to actually be one of the first to provide these kind of opportunities for our customers. I think it's very important that we bring together not only our experience and expertise, but also our vendor partners' experience and expertise, as well as our customers. We want to make sure that the cost to experiment in AI is brought down as low as possible, and that the deployment is as fast as possible. So overall, our job is to make sure that we accelerate the adoption of AI, hopefully on-prem, because we believe that long-term, the cost of running AI in on-prem is going to be so much more economical than in the cloud.
Mm-hmm. Staying with AI in general before we get into the PCs, it seems to me that one of the challenges for a lot of organizations is use cases, right? Identifying the things that are going to provide the most value. I'd love to get just your personal opinions. What are the use cases that you've seen that you find most exciting?
Yeah, let me kind of break it out into a couple different pieces. Like, for example, I can tell you at AMD, we have internal usage of AI. We have hundreds of use cases that we're deploying in anywhere from, let's call it proof of concepts, to full production environments. And we divide it into two categories. One is just basic, let's call it efficiencies, and efficiencies around how we do finance, how we do HR. We have some marketing programs, some communications programs, where you're just able to use AI to kind of help answer people's questions faster and get better, faster productivity. But where we actually see the largest and productivity opportunities are with our design environments. At the end of the day, it's our job is designing new chips, and we like to design chips as fast as possible. We're using AI throughout the entire chip design process, from how do we define, get better products, how do we ensure test cases are right, how we ensure the quality is right, and these are just some examples within our company. Now, if you go broader to large enterprises, what I'm most excited about is the opportunities for AI to really transform sort of business models and business capabilities. Some of the kind of the favorite use cases are around healthcare and how we can use AI to improve healthcare outcomes. But you can see it in manufacturing productivity. I talked about it in electronic design. All of these examples are important. And I think what we'll find is AI started as a productivity tool. So how do I get more for each person that I have? And I think it's going to really get to a place where It's much more, coming up with outcomes that are perhaps today not even possible, just given the time and the effort and the data that you need to analyze.
Ty, I know you really interested in life sciences and health as well. Is that similar sort of use cases that excite you? Or?
I mean, healthcare industry can be completely transformed, driving down the cost and more effectiveness as well. I'm very excited about the future of AI, and at SHI, we have an app called MindSpark that we've been developing, and for the last year and a half, 2 years. We're 4,000 out of 7,000 employees are using it on a regular basis. We're using AI to train our sales reps, to grade the sales pitches, to provide advice. So really, they're like a sales coach. We also deploy this for research. We feed in all the trip notes so that we can provide suggestions, grade the trip notes, and provide suggestions on how things can be done better. So right now, it's more productivity and training tool, but possibilities are really
endless, literally. But as you say, I think with MindSpark, also I use it myself as well. One of the key things that we achieved was identifying those use cases. And we also democratized that to a certain degree, because we kind of invited the whole company to get involved in defining the use cases and even to some extent the prompting to support the use cases. So AI is very much pervasive across our organization now. We're going to get to the AI PCs, and we are already running short on time, which I feel terrible about because I'm loving the conversation. I feel it's really unfair on the audience that I'm the only one that gets to ask you questions. So if you have that Slido app open, you can actually type in a question, and I will see if I can squeeze that into the agenda before we have to let Ty and Lisa go. But let's get to AI PCs, right? We talked about them having a fairly slow start, but Gartner being pretty bullish about this year. The survey is in. So we had 11% in the audience were piloting PCs within selected teams. So very, very encouraging. 25% exploring how AI PCs could support specific roles and workflows. But we're at 42% that are not currently exploring AI PCs. Again, in your role as Chief Sales Officer for AMD, what's the main thing that we should be looking for in AI PCs?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I think we have an opportunity when you look at the PC cycle today. So we're at a place where, when you think about the last upgrade cycle, much of it was around the pandemic timeframe where people really upgraded their PC capabilities. We're now coming up on the time to refresh those PCs. You add on top of it Windows 10 end of support coming online later this year, and you're going to have an opportunity to upgrade your PCs sometime over the next, whether it's this year or early next year. There's going to be a large PC refresh cycle, and when you're thinking about that opportunity, AI PCs are really the next generation of what PC capabilities are. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about Copilot Plus. I mean, obviously, Microsoft has put a lot into Copilot Plus capabilities that give you the opportunity to enhance your PC use cases. But I think you're going to see AI PC use cases across a broad range of creativity, productivity applications. And then I go back to this local data concept, which is, everyone has a ton of data on their PC today. And boy, I don't know how many of you have the same issue I do, which is I can never find what I want to find when I'm trying to look for something. The power of AI is to really simplify all of that organizational capability. And I think that is really, sort of the example of the AI PC is taking your PC to the next level of productivity. And on top of that, you can run local models, your data is private, our enterprise data will be private, and you have an upgrade cycle coming up already, and so we call it just future-proofing what you're doing with your PC over the next few years.
So Ty, within SHI, you famously don't have an exec assistant or a PA. Do you see yourself as an ideal customer for an AI PC?
I do. I fully intend to use AI agents as my assistant.
I was super shocked when Ty said, I don't have an assistant, just like do it, just send me everything. And She really does do everything. So I'm happy you're going to be a user of one of these brand new, most capable AI PCs.
I clearly have some control issues, but
So we've had a flood of questions, which is fantastic. And I'm seeing one major trend immediately, which is power and consumption, or power consumption associated with AI. What is AMD doing to try to minimize the power draw of these new, more powerful chips?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, power efficiency is a first order consideration today. And it's, you think about it for sustainability, you think about it for just data center power, you think about it for battery life in mobile PCs. We actually have made some commitments in terms of how much more energy efficient our chips are going to be. We've said over the past 5 years, from 2020 to 2025, that we would improve the power efficiency of our chips by 30 times in that time frame. And we do that with every trick in the book in terms of how to do that. But there's a lot of work going on with our customers and partners to also do full-scale optimization around power efficiency.
What about, we haven't really compared AI on a PC as opposed to AI on a big server, whether that's on-prem or in the cloud. Do you see clear distinctions as to when you should try to run like a small language model or whatever it might be on a local PC? Sound like I'm from the 80s. A laptop PC versus putting it into the cloud.
Yeah, the analogies I would give you are, if you're running a very large model, or if you want to, certainly if you're doing any kind of training, you're probably going to do that in the cloud. Because you need access to a lot of computing power, maybe for a short amount of time. Frankly, you're doing something that's very, sort of bursty. Cloud is great for that kind of stuff. When you're needing to run, very large models, that's great. But it turns out that AI is very diverse, and many of us are going to run personal models and fine-tune models that really operate more on your own data. And for those, many of those use cases can be run locally. And that's, I think, what we're seeing is, as people, the early AI was all about big foundational models, ChatGPT, all of that stuff. But now you look at, the last few months, you've seen, sort of DeepSeek being sort of the new model on the block. And people are not running the DeepSeek that actually came from the cloud. People are downloading DeepSeek and actually personalizing it for their own environment, and also ensuring that they keep their own data. So those are some of the differences.
Thank you. We've got clearly a number of public sector customers in the audience, because there's another trend that's coming through very clearly, which is AI in local government, state government, but also specifically in education. That was a key theme that we covered yesterday in the AI labs, and we really see the AI labs being somewhere that education can get involved. Is that something perhaps you'd want to share with the audience a bit more?
Yeah, we're very excited to be working with some of the leading institutions in the state of New Jersey, Rutgers, Princeton, and JIT. We are really ideating a lot of ideas about exchanging students, training program, internships. There's just so many possibilities. Yeah. I'm thinking maybe we need to actually locate our AI lab elsewhere too, so that we can take advantage of other states and students.
I'm sure Jack's not having a heart attack at this point. Okay, so look, we're running very short on time, but I do just really want to quickly touch on the partnership between AMD and SHI. And Lisa, to a company like AMD, what is the value of having channel partners like SHI?
Yeah, so first of all, I have to say, everyone loves Thai, including me. So look, SHI is an incredibly important partner in our network. And the way to think about it is, we're all about how do we get our technology in as many places as possible. And the relationships and the capabilities that the SHI team have in terms of touching sort of this broad set of users who may have your own individual use cases. I'll just give you one example. Right, what we found in our latest generation processors is 90% of the time when someone decides to do a proof of concept on AMD, they end up choosing AMD. So we have a very, very high hit rate. but we need more at-bats, and that's where SHI is just a superb partner in terms of the capabilities and the knowledge of your team, and how, how together we're able to help customers get technology into their work environments as fast as possible is what we really value about the relationship.
And it's great to say you are firmly in that next-gen device lab that some of the customers were able to focus on, or to visit, earlier today. And really excited to get you into the AI labs as well and have AMD showcased there. All right, I am going to get that sort of Oscars music any moment to tell me that I have to wrap things up. But I have one more question for you. We've talked a lot about business. We've talked about AI a lot. Let's just talk about relaxing for a second. Lisa, is there like a favorite way to wind down for a busy executive like yourself?
Well, I would say probably the favorite way is I am a closet golfer. I say closet golfer because I'm not super good, but it is when my husband and I moved to Austin a while back. The nice thing about Austin is you can pretty much golf most of the year, so that's one of the advantages.
Perfect. Ty, I don't know what the answer to this one's going to be, so.
Well, I'm not closet anything, just a couch potato. That's my favorite destination where I get to go home at night and I just try to learn as much as possible about a lot of different things, which is really a privilege for me to really have time. And
I get you. Well, speaking of privilege, it's been a privilege to speak to both of you. Thank you so much. Everybody, Dr. Lisa Su and Ty Lee.